In Jupiter, Florida, Timothy and Tracy Ferriter present a quiet suburban life to the outside world. Alongside their biological children, they have welcomed an adopted son, RF, into their home. The family's routine, school activities, and chores paint a picture of normalcy. RF, a teenager with his own room, is seemingly provided with a nurturing environment to flourish. Yet, unbeknownst to outsiders, RF's experience starkly deviates from what one might expect, particularly at the hands of his adoptive father, Timothy. The boy endures conditions that underlie the family's ordinary exterior. Hidden away in the garage, RF faces isolation and confinement, a stark contradiction to the family's public facade. This difference between public perception and private reality has been carefully veiled by the day-to-day facade of a loving family, leaving RF's true circumstances undiscovered, and setting the stage for a truth that can only remain hidden for so long. Introducing Private Internet Access, the world's most transparent VPN provider. With over 30 million downloads, they've become the go-to solution for streaming enthusiasts and anyone looking to protect their privacy. Here's some incredible news. By using the link provided, you can enjoy an exclusive 83% discount on private internet access for just $2.03 a month. You can unlock a world of entertainment, and as a bonus, they'll give you 4 extra months completely free. Private internet access is available on all major platforms. Stream your favorite content on your preferred device. Your one subscription is capable of protecting an unlimited amount of devices at the same time. The VPN works seamlessly with all major streaming services, unlocking a world of content no matter where you are. And yes, they support peer-to-peer file sharing. Private internet access prioritizes your privacy. They never record or store user data, and their no logs policy has been proven multiple times in court and verified by a third-party audit from Deloitte. By using private internet access, you can hide your IP address and encrypt your internet connection. Say goodbye to prying eyes. Have commitment issues? Don't. Signing up for private internet access is risk-free. They offer a 30-day money-back guarantee, and their dedicated 24/7 customer service team is always ready to assist you. Link for this amazing offer in the description below. Now let's get back to the video. Within the confines of the garage, the adopted teenage son is subjected to a life that no one in the streets of Jupiter could fathom, a life of isolation, where the educational and playful activities of a normal childhood are replaced by solitude and silence. RF's interactions are limited, the garage becoming both his bedroom and his cell. Timothy has set rules that are rigid and unyielding. And Tracy, though part of this familial structure, is complicit in the actions that leave RF segregated from the world outside. The biological children, caught up in their own lives, may sense a dissonance, but do not grasp the gravity of RF's plight. They are unwitting bystanders to a situation that, once disclosed, will unravel the fabric of their reality. School officials note RF's absences, his empty classroom seat, a silent signal that something is amiss. They speculate, but the truth eludes them. Hidden behind the Ferriter's carefully constructed image of an attentive and caring household, inside the garage, RF tries to maintain a sense of normalcy, engaging in whatever limited activities he can. His resilience is notable, but the lack of interaction, education, and freedom takes its toll. His world is reduced to the boundaries of the walls that surround him, his view of the outside world limited to what he can glimpse through any small openings. As the evidence of neglect accumulates like the dust in the corners of the garage, the inevitability of discovery grows. The case breaks open when the boy runs away from home in January 2022 and is reported missing to the Jupiter Police Department. A police officer discovers the boy's living conditions are deplorable. He is confined to a small, windowless structure in the garage with minimal amenities. He is locked in from the outside and monitored by a Ring camera. The room contains only a box spring, a mattress, a desk, and a bucket for his use, as he is not allowed to access the bathroom for hours. The Jupiter Police Department serves a search warrant to Ring Corporation, which reveals footage of the boy's life in this confined space, including instances where he is left in the dark, alone, and instances of physical intimidation and threats of violence from Timothy. Shortly thereafter, Timothy Ferriter is arrested. The charges include aggravated child abuse, child neglect, and false imprisonment. Let's now fast forward to the trial. At the trial, the prosecution's strategy revolves around a detailed presentation of the boy's living conditions and the continuous confinement and isolation he endured. They aim to show the jury the stark contrast between the outwardly normal Ferriter family life and the hidden cruelty within their garage, a windowless, cell-like structure. The jury is to be exposed to the evidence from the Ring camera that recorded the boy's daily life, capturing the sound of the door locking and moments of darkness, isolation, and physical intimidation.
On Sunday, Detective Sharp from the Jupiter Police Department went into the Ferriter home with Tracy Ferriter. You're going to hear it's at that point that for the very first time he learned about how he was living, about what his living situation was like at home with his parents. He's going to tell you that he was shown the house, and the first thing that stood out to him was that the child who they were looking for didn't have a place to sleep in the main house. There wasn't a bedroom for him, there weren't his items of clothes, there weren't his toys inside of the house. Instead, there was a structure, a small room box-like structure that was constructed in the garage that didn't have any windows. It had a box spring and a mattress, a bucket in the corner, and a desk. Detective Sharp realized that that small cell-like room had a Ring camera in the corner to observe the occupant of the room. And so as part of his investigation, he served a search warrant to the Ring Corporation to see if they had maintained any videos. And you're going to get the opportunity to see and hear that evidence that was returned from the Ring Corporation, because that Ring camera captured moment after moment of life in that room. You're going to hear over and over and over again that door locking and unlocking, because the evidence is going to show that that room was not a room that he could come and go from as he pleased. He was locked inside from the outside over and over again. You're also going to see that he did not have the ability to control things like the lights in that room, that the only way that those lights could be controlled was outside the room. And so you're going to see him sitting in the dark in a windowless room for hours at a time. And we're not just talking from 10 p.m. till 7 o'clock in the morning overnight. You're going to see that even during the day, there are times in which his parents, the defendant and his wife, would turn off that light and leave their 14-year-old son locked in a room in the dark, alone, isolated. You're also going to get to observe and hear the anger and the derision, the physical altercations that this defendant has with his child on the Ring camera, physical intimidation and the threats of violence. You're also going to see having to use that bucket, having to pee in the bucket, because for hours overnight, he did not have access or the opportunity to go to the bathroom. And the only option for him was to pee in the bucket. And then you're going to see the next morning when that occurred, that this defendant would tell him, clean out the bucket, make sure the neighbors don't see you doing that.
The defense, on the other hand, seek to portray Timothy as a father who was striving to protect not only his adoptive son, but also the other children in the home and the wider community. They seek to explain that Timothy and Tracy engaged in various efforts to address their son's behavioral issues, including involving him in activities to channel his energy, seeking counseling, managing his diet on the advice of a pediatrician, and attempting to regulate his sleep patterns. These actions were meant to underscore a continuous effort by the parents to seek professional help and find solutions for their son's behavior. The defense's strategy seems to rest on distinguishing between poor parenting decisions and criminal behavior, focusing on the lack of criminal intent in Timothy's actions.
You only have to make one determination in this case, and that is whether or not Tim Ferriter had the criminal intent necessary. That's it. Did he or did he not have the criminal intent? And that will be your guiding question throughout this case. This case is not about whether or not Tim Ferriter made the right choice, because I will be the first to tell you, the defense will be the first to tell you that he did not. But what it is about is the difficulty of parenting, right? Because bad parenting does not make somebody a criminal. Bad parenting does not mean that a person should be charged with a crime. It makes them human. It makes them a parent who is trying to figure out, when faced with a child, as you'll hear throughout the trial, who has consistent and escalating behavioral issues, how to handle them. They will show you that, for very much lack of a better term, is wired this way. It is a function of brain development. And it's why the Ferriters continued to see patterns of behavior that would not stop. I want to take you through some of those patterns. His parents regularly received emails of him fighting at school, punching other kids, using profanity. Tim and Tracy moved. Well, let me start with this. He was at a school with his sister where he pretended that a teacher asked him to make an announcement in class. So he was in a different class. He goes into class and says, "Oh, the teacher asked me to make an announcement." He has his sister stand up and humiliates her in front of the entire class, saying that she's a horrible person. And it was so disturbing to the teacher who was present, who you'll hear from throughout this trial, that she had to report it. Tim and Tracy moved to an accelerated private school in hopes that the challenging work would engage him. It was sort of a math and science type school, so they thought that that would help him stop. It did not. He stood up in class at that school and asked if the Holocaust was a good thing. He was accused of telling a student that they should get aborted. He got up in class and said that immigrants are more likely to be drug dealers. He brought a screwdriver to class and was waving it in someone's face.
At trial, a police officer who witnessed RF's confines would testify. The officer describes the photos of the door to the boys' enclosure, images captured under their supervision that show the door's external deadbolt and knob lock, definitive proof that the space was designed to keep someone in against their will. The officer would further testify as the exterior placement of the light switch, which allowed someone outside the enclosure to cast the boys' world into darkness at will.
So when you first walk into the house, kind of describe what did you see?
Sure, absolutely. When I first entered the residence, there was a small credenza right alongside the wall there. This credenza, there was an object on it, but that was the only item. Mrs. Ferriter then directed me into a room directly inside the residence. I believe it was to the right. She purported that both of her sons stayed in that room.
What did you see in that room?
Inside that room, I only saw objects belonging to a young child. I believe there was a sign that sits in the room. There was also a crib and other objects, leading me to believe that that was the only child that occupied that room.
And you indicated that there was a sign of the names. Is there a child that the Ferriters have named?
That there is.
Okay. Did you notice anything else about that room?
Inside that room, there was also a small makeshift area that appeared as though there was a blanket and what appeared to be a pillow laying on the floor, but it was there kind of haphazardly. It didn't appear as anyone had slept there. It was just there, placed.
Where is the next part of the house that you go to?
After looking in that room, I was directed towards near the Florida room. There was an area with a small desk. Mrs. Ferriter led me to believe that the children would do homework in this area. The next place I went to was the enclosure in question.
Where was that enclosure found?
Inside the garage of the residence.
And when you first went in there, what did you do?
When I first walked, so the enclosure is through the kitchen and into the garage. When I first walked through the kitchen and into the garage, I noticed that the door appeared to have a deadbolt, and there appeared to be a light switch on the exterior of the room outside to the left of that door. I then walked in and I observed a box spring and a mattress with what appeared to be some sheets, and there was also a small desk, a little bit smaller than this, that appeared to have some children's books on them. So I stood inside the room and I looked around for clues as to, where he may have gone, etc.
So I know while you were sitting down, you were motioning kind of like the length of what the witness stand was.
Yes.
Now, how long were you in that room for?
I was in the room less than a minute. I was inside the residence 5 minutes.
Now, after you finished viewing the room, where did you go next?
After I first walked into the room, I recalled that I could see something out of the corner of my eye, but I wasn't sure exactly what it was. So when I walked back out of the room, I asked Mrs. Ferriter if I could go back in the room. She allowed me to go back in, and when I went back in, that was when I saw the Ring camera that was in the corner of the room.
Now, publishing states 11B. What is that a picture of?
That is another angle of that same interior enclosure.
And 11C, or 12C, I apologize.
That is another angle of the interior of the enclosure. This time you can highlight there the door of that enclosure is off and laying against the wall.
On January 30th of 2022, when you first went to the residence, was the door like that?
The door was not like that. The door was on the door frame, hinged and utilized appropriately with the exterior deadbolt lock on the outside.
That lock was only on the outside of the door, right?
That's correct.
What about on the inside of the door?
On the inside was only the spot where you'd have to put a key, so there was no way for, if that door was locked, for anyone on the inside to exit.
What about the lights? Did you notice any lights in the enclosure?
Yes.
And what about the light switch?
The light switch was also on the exterior of the room. It was to the left of the door in this photograph.
At an impactful moment, RF himself would testify about the abuse he suffered at home. RF speaks of a time before the garage room became his world. He first speaks of a room in the house initially his, with a bed and even a coffee table for chess. But soon the narrative darkens as he recounts being moved to a room in the garage, with no windows, no bathroom, and an air conditioner he could not control. Despite the heat that sometimes became unbearable, he was forbidden from adjusting the temperature, a rule set within the confined, suffocating space.
How was the house like?
So the house had a 2-car garage. It had 3 bedrooms, 1 office, and 2 bathrooms. And we also had 2 living rooms and a backyard.
Okay. Tell us who had the bedrooms? Who had what bedroom?
I had a bedroom. I had a bedroom and had the office as a room. And Tim and Tracy had a room together.
Okay. I want to talk to you for a second about something that's already been entered into evidence and see if you recognize, or we can talk about some of these photographs, okay?
Okay.
Permission to approach, Your Honor, what's already been entered into evidence as states 3A through C.
Granted.
Okay, so I'm showing you this is already in evidence. The jury's already seen it. States 3A through C. Do you recognize what room we're looking at?
Yes.
Which room is that?
It is his room.
Okay. Now, in these pictures, there's like some mattresses on the floor in his room. Is that what it was like when you were living there?
No.
Were those mattresses on there?
No.
In the floor? Do you know where those mattresses were?
That mattress was in either, if it's an inflatable mattress, it was in storage or in my room. If it was an actual mattress, it would come from my room.
Now, you mentioned that there was, thank you. You mentioned that I had a room.
Yes.
I had a room, your parents had a room, and had the office.
Yes.
Where did you sleep?
I slept in an 8x8 room in the garage.
Okay. Was that room built into the garage?
It was built inside the garage.
Inside the garage?
Yes.
Who built that? Or who had it built?
Timothy hired a contractor to build it in December of 2021.
Okay, and how do you know that?
Because I was kept in their closet and I overheard the conversation of them having to build it.
Okay. Now, I'm going to approach something that has been entered into evidence already as States 9. Okay?
You may approach, and you can approach freely.
I'm showing you what's already been entered into evidence as States 9. What does that show?
This shows the room.
So is this a picture of the garage kind of from the outside?
Yes.
And then in there, can you see the back wall of the room?
Yes.
Is that the room that you're talking about that you stayed in the defendant's home in Jupiter?
Yes.
I want to talk about what it was like in that room. You said it was about 8 by 8.
Yes.
Did it have a concrete floor, or what was the floor like?
So the floor was concrete, but I used these little 16 by 16 inch mats of carpet to put down on the floor, so it wasn't so hard.
Okay, so it had a concrete floor, but on top there was a carpet laid on top of it.
Yes.
What kind of furniture did you have in that room?
I had a desk and a bed.
Did the bed have a bed frame, or what was it like?
The bed had no frame, had no box spring. It was just a mattress on the floor.
Okay. And mattress on the floor, what size of mattress was it?
Size of the mattress was a twin size.
Now, did the room have any windows or any outside light?
No, it only had an air conditioner.
Okay. Let's talk about that air conditioner for a second. Were you allowed to touch or operate the air conditioner?
No.
Were you allowed to turn it on if you were hot or turn it off if you were too cold?
No.
Would you get in trouble if you touched the air conditioner at all?
Yes.
And who did that direction come from?
Tim.
Did the room have any lights?
It had a light, but it was controlled outside the room.
Okay, so if you wanted to turn on the light, is that something that you could do when you were inside the room?
No.
Did you have any control over when the lights were on or when the lights were off? Who controlled that?
My parents, Tim or Tracy.
Okay. Were there times that you were in the room in the dark?
Yes.
Is that at night sometimes?
Yes, and also during the day.
Okay, so there are periods of time during the day where you would be there in the dark, in the room.
Yes.
What was it like in the room when the lights were off?
It was pitch black. You couldn't see anything.
Would you have to feel your way around to
Yes.
see what's going on? Now, did the room have a bathroom or access to the bathroom?
It had a bucket for my urine and feces, but that was basically it.
Okay, so if you were in the room and you were closed in there and you had to use the bathroom, what was your only option?
Use the bucket.
Now I want to talk about the time frame in Florida. While you were in there, were there times where you were locked in the room, unable to leave, and had to use the bathroom?
Yes.
And did you use the bucket in the corner of the room in order to relieve yourself?
Yes.
Now in Florida, did you ever have to use that bucket for feces?
No.
But did you have to use it to urinate?
Yes.
What about previously? We'll talk about it a little bit more depth. When you were in Arizona, did you ever have to use the bucket for Arizona for feces?
Yes.
Did you have to use it for urine?
Yes.
Because you had to urinate in the room on occasion. How was did the room smell at all?
Yes.
How did it smell? I mean, was it bad?
Putrid. Yeah.
Now, I want to talk about whether or not, was there a camera in the room?
Yes.
And what was your understanding of what was happening with the camera?
So the camera was a Ring camera. It had two-way communication, but the communication from the person viewing the camera to the person that is being supervised by the camera was separated by the click of a button on the phone or any device you can to watch the video.
So the person outside the room watching on the Ring camera could talk to you inside the room?
Yes, by the click of a button.
So they would have to click on something in order to hear them. And they could also potentially hear what you would say.
Yes.
Were there times that the defendants in this case, Tim and Tracy Ferriter, were there times that they spoke to you only through the camera?
Yes.
Now, we talked a little bit about the room, but tell me about the door. How was the room? Could you come and go from that room as you pleased?
No.
Tell me how it was.
So, the door in Florida?
In Florida.
All right, the door in Florida of December of 2021.
To January of 2022, yes.
Yes. It had a normal lock on the handle and a deadbolt also.
Okay. Which side of the door was the normal lock on the handle?
The outside of the room.
Okay. And what about the deadbolt?
Also outside the room.
So when you were inside the room, were you able to open the door if it was locked?
No.
Okay. Did that happen? Were you locked inside of the room?
Yes.
Was that most of the time you were in the room it was locked?
Yes.
Now, when you were in the room, were you always given access to water when you were locked inside the room?
I received water occasionally, but not at a regular basis.
Okay. So there are times when you're given a cup or a water bottle to have in the room.
Yes.
But there are also occasions when you're locked inside the room without anything to drink.
Yes.
Okay. And what about food? Did you ever eat any of your meals in the room?
I ate a majority of my meals in the room.
If you were in the room and you didn't have any food at that time and you were hungry, did you have the ability to get additional food?
No.
Is that something you were allowed to do, to go in the kitchen and get a snack or get additional food if you were hungry?
No.
If you did that, what would happen?
I would get.
Did you get punished?
Yes.
Ronan, did you like being in that room?
No.
Did you want to be in the room?
No.
How did it make you feel?
To me, being locked in a room, it's dehumanizing. It's almost as bad as genocide. It's saddening to abuse a child that was just acting like a child, never thinking of what an adult would think to do to a child that would succumb his or her efforts in daily life to succeed, suffering from emotional pain, suffering, trauma.
Next, RF recalls being allowed inside the house occasionally, strictly for chores, and sometimes not at all. On those days, he's outside, the heat of the sun on his back, moving rocks and shrubs, watched by a camera's unblinking eye. He admits to the court that there was no physical beating during those days, but the fear of Timothy's capacity for harm lingers.
There were some occasions where you were allowed to be in the living room.
Yes.
Is that what you mean? Or in the kitchen with the rest of the family?
Usually I was just in the living room doing chores, or in the kitchen also doing chores.
Now, was there time in Florida where you were outside of the house?
Yes.
What would you be doing outside of the house, mostly?
Raking leaves, moving shells. Yeah.
Now, when you were outside of the house, are you under the direct supervision of your parents, or are you kind of out there by yourself?
They had a camera to watch me, but it was another Ring camera. But otherwise, I was not supervised while I was outside.
So you'd be outside of the house by yourself for periods of time?
Yes.
Now, were there a couple occasions where maybe you did get to play or interact with your siblings outside?
Yeah.
But for the most part, when you were outside, what were you having to do?
Yard work, chores.
And could you, when you were doing the yard work of the chores, if you got hot or you needed a drink of water, were you allowed to just go in the house and get those things?
No.
Were there times where the front door was locked and you couldn't get in?
Yes.
What would you have to do in that circumstance? Would you just have to wait outside or something
I had to
else?
wait outside.
Okay, until they decide to let you in?
Yes.
Now, I want to talk about, in Florida, were there instances where the defendant, in this case, Tim Ferriter, acted towards you in a way that was physically aggressive?
Repeat the question.
Was there ever any physical aggression towards you in Florida?
There was instances of grabbing and pushing, but otherwise, no.
Okay.
Physical contact such as punching, hitting, smacking.
Right. None of that happened during the time frame in Florida.
No.
Were there times where he was verbally aggressive to you in Florida?
Yes.
What kind of things would he say to you?
It would say, "This is a piece of
You can spell it.
SHIT. You better, you better pick it up." Yeah.
Would he call you names?
No.
Would he yell at you?
Yes.
And would he scream at you?
Yes.
Did it appear to you, based on how he was interacting with you, that he was angry at you?
Yes.
And is the same true for Tracy?
No.
Now, because of his verbal aggression, did you have a belief as to whether or not he could, if you didn't listen to him, or that there was a risk, or that were you concerned that he would be physically aggressive to you?
I can safely assume that he could cause bodily harm to me.
Next, another child of the Ferriter family would testify. The story unfolds in fragments, pieces of a puzzle that paint a picture of neglect and fear of a brother often left alone while life went on just beyond his reach.
You said that there was a structure built that your parents specifically built in the garage. Can you see it in that picture?
Yes, it's behind the racks.
Okay. Is that white building?
Yes.
Okay. Let's talk about that white structure that's in the garage.
Yeah, that little white box in there.
Let's talk about it. Did that have any windows?
No.
Did it have a lock from the outside?
Yes.
Did it have any access from in the garage to a bathroom?
No.
Okay. And did it have lights inside of it?
I can't remember.
Now, is that the room that Ben slept in?
Yes.
Is that room, other than just sleeping times, did he spend time, or was he put in that room?
Yes.
Okay. Was he allowed to be in the house by himself?
No.
Was he allowed to walk freely through the house?
No.
Was he allowed to do something like watch TV in the living room?
Not alone.
Were you allowed to do that?
Yes.
Was your sister allowed to do that?
Yes.
What about snacks? Was there food freely available to him in the kitchen?
No.
Would he be allowed to go and take a snack out of the fridge?
No.
What about get a drink of water if he was thirsty? Is that something he would be allowed to do?
Maybe water if someone watched him.
Only if someone watched him. Were you allowed to take a snack if you were hungry?
Yes.
Was your sister allowed to get a snack if you were hungry?
Yes.
Were there times that you would receive special treats, like, desserts or snacks?
Correct. Yeah.
What would happen in those instances? Would they be shared with all of your siblings?
There were usually rewards, and usually when I received them, it wasn't often that I also received.
Okay. Are there some times that once in a while he would receive a reward?
Very rarely.
Are there times through in this household growing up, were you someone who was observant of how your parents treated your other siblings?
Yes.
Did you watch and listen to things that were happening?
Yes.
Throughout your childhood?
I did.
Are you an observant person?
I would consider myself to be.
Did you ever see Tom get punished?
Yes.
Was the type of punishment that Tom got the same type of punishment that you or no would get for the same type of conduct?
No.
How was it different?
It was either more extreme or something completely different than what we received.
Were you ever locked in your room or prevented from leaving?
No.
Did you ever have to go to the bathroom only in a bucket?
No.
Were you ever required to be alone in your room in the dark?
No.
Were you allowed to have phones?
Yes.
Were you allowed to play games on your devices?
Yes.
Was Ty allowed to play games?
No. Not unsupervised.
Was he allowed to have a device?
No.
Now, you said that you saw through your time in Florida get punished. Did you ever see him get punished for little things?
Yes.
Like what?
For me, it'd be just not answering questions. Maybe he plays a little too rough with one of us, or he talks back.
When you say he wasn't answering questions, what do you mean?
Let's say he did something wrong and they asked him about it. He wouldn't say anything. He just wouldn't answer them.
And what would be the response to that?
If he didn't answer them to a certain point, he'd be sent to his room. Or he did answer, he'd still be sent to his room.
Right. And when he's sent to his room, is he then allowed to leave?
No.
Is he locked in there?
Yes, he did leave. I don't know.
Did you see both Tim and Tracy force him into the room? Make him go into the room?
I've heard both of them tell him to go into.
And did you see both Tim and Tracy involved in the punishment and discipline?
Can you be more specific?
Well, there's something that one person did or the other person did, but were they both?
They were both involved with the punishment.
Now, over time, growing up with your brother, did you notice him become less communicative?
Yes. He shut down.
Okay. Did you notice him over time, especially toward the end, become more withdrawn?
Yes.
Did he smile less?
Yes.
And that's something you noticed kind of as his sibling?
Yes.
Now, I want to talk about specifically right now the time in Florida. What was your observation about kind of how often he was in the room?
How often he was in the room?
Yeah, did you see him around the house very often?
Not inside the house.
No. Where would you see him?
Outside.
Okay. Tell me about that. What would he be doing outside?
Yard work, moving the outdoor furniture.
So when he's outside, is it like that he has the opportunity to freely play?
No, it's not.
Okay. What kind of yard work is he doing?
At the time we were moving in, so it was mostly moving supplies outside the house.
Okay. Was there some yard work or landscaping involving shelves that he was required to do?
Yes.
Okay. Is that something that you were required to do?
No.
And you said that you would observe him outside. When he was told to go outside, did he have the free option of coming back into the house?
No.
How would that work?
So if he was put outside, one of them would know that he's outside. One of my parents would know he's outside, and then if he got done with work, he'd come and wait for them to let him back.
Okay, would he be allowed to just come back in?
Not unless someone was watching him.
Okay. And are there times when he would be locked out of being allowed back in the house?
Yes.
And then when he was let back in, would he then be able to relax around the house, or what would happen?
Not really. He'd either go to his room or just go somewhere to be monitored.
Okay. Now, in your house, did you eat meals with him regularly?
No.
Where would he be while you would be eating?
Most likely in his room.
And what about when you would get home from school? Would he be with you doing homework in the kitchen or the living room?
No, he did most of his homework in his room. I didn't see him very often.
You didn't see him very often out around the house?
Around the house.
Okay, so when you saw him, when he was home and you were home, for the most part, was he one of two places?
Yes.
And what are those two places?
Room or outside.
Were you allowed after school to come and go freely around the house?
Yes.
And your mom, was she around during those times of the day after school?
Yes.
She didn't work?
No.
Were there times that the defendant, Tim, in this case, was also around?
Yes.
In the house?
Yes.
Like after school, would Tim or Tracy do things with you all after school occasionally?
We would eat meals. I can't think of.
Okay, but wasn't with you when that happened?
Not often.
Now, when you say not often, was there 1 or 2 times that he was out and allowed to eat meals?
He was sometimes eat with us.
The majority of the time he there.
Not that I can really recall.
At a turning point at trial, the prosecution presents the footage from a Ring camera. This unassuming device now plays the chilling story of RF's abuse. It captures the echo of Timothy's voice, harsh and biting, a stark contrast to the boy's helpless existence. It's through these recordings that the jury witnesses the grim reality of the boy's existence. This is the audio that was captured.
Don't look at me like an asshole. You want to tell me something or not?
I have a nightmare.
Yeah, from where?
Blue van.
Where?
Green van.
Excuse me?
Green van.
Stealing again?
What the fuck is wrong with you?
You're stealing,
fucking
like,
disappointing.
chocolate, and you got so much stuff in your room.
Fucking break. You're just such a disappointment. You're gonna lose. I'm gonna take you out of that school. And you're gonna be in this room.
He's gonna be.
You're this close. Because I can't trust shit you do. But put the ankle bracelet back on, and then you can try to fucking run away if you want and do all the bullshit you do, but I'm gonna lock your ass down.
Because those are for my toys.
Give me a fucking break.
No. Why do you have all this tape?
I'm sick of the bullshit. You're a big boy, you're gonna steal, you're gonna talk to police, I'm gonna give you a fucking real deal. Okay? You're gonna steal from our fucking house?
Again?
Give me a fucking break, bro. What other shit do you got in here?
Nothing else.
Because you're gonna lose it all in about 2 seconds. Lose every fucking
It's
thing.
all gonna
all
be
this
smashed
shit.
real
Don't,
quick.
I told you not to unplug that fucking thing. Right?
Yeah.
You listen to me?
Yeah.
Bullshit, you
No,
listen
you
to me?
didn't. You
Just
told
unplugged
it to plug this in, and then you're just a liar. Just keep lying. You lied earlier when I asked you. You can't.
Fucking disappointing.
Obviously, I'm gonna open everything up.
Stand up, stand in the corner. Good as always, right? Now lose this, right? We're gonna lose this again? Same way? Is that what you want to do?
Why are these in here? Are these yours?
No, Pierce just dumped them the other day. Why are you bringing them in there, Pierce? Really? Why are you bringing them in there?
What do you got all these things in?
Why?
Here.
What?
I'm sure there's a bunch of stuff in here that's gonna be all.
Anything else you want to tell us about before we find it? Get over there.
Why do you have this in here? This is not yours.
What? See what your lion does? See what your lion does? You see it?
Is this?
We're going back to this?
I don't know what you're doing. You just got ice cream with us, right? Why are
See, I'm this close to getting you a computer to do coding.
Yeah, right.
Do you deserve that shit now? Fuck no.
Okay, I'm just gonna take this out because obviously I can't trust under all these bins. So just take this one out. Take this one out.
You could have a hidden spot and you couldn't be seen on the camera, right? But you're gonna lie to me. I want to have it this way so I can sit this way so I can do this. Right?
Yeah.
So you can access to the plug and recharge the device, right?
Why not earn stuff? Why? We said we're gonna get you a computer. We're gonna get all these things. Why?
Hard to.
What's
It's hard to.
You were gonna have every kind of thing that you'd want. You just earn it. You just had ice cream tonight, so why are you gonna steal chocolate? You're getting cookies, you're getting ice cream, you're getting all these things, so why steal when you're getting all this stuff?
You go off the edge at school, you'll be done with school. You'll be in here homeschooling. I told you that's a possibility. So go ahead and test me tomorrow by going to school and misbehaving or doing any shit you shouldn't do. Test me.
After 7 days of trial, the jury reached a unanimous decision. Timothy was found guilty on all 3 counts in his aggravated child abuse trial. This verdict holds him accountable for the harrowing treatment of his adoptive son. Now Timothy faces the prospect of up to 35 years in prison, with his sentencing set for November 2023. So, what may have led Timothy to mistreat his son in this manner? The theory of planned behavior, TPB, posits that human activity is guided by 3 kinds of consideration: behavioral beliefs, normative beliefs, and control beliefs. In the context of Timothy Ferriter's case, applying this theory may provide insight into the psychological framework that could have led to the crime. The TPB suggests that one's attitude toward behavior, the influence of social norms, and the perceived control over one's actions intertwine to shape decision-making processes. Behavioral beliefs in TPB refer to the perceived outcome of an action. If Timothy held the belief that his actions would lead to positive outcomes, such as improving his adoptive son's behavior or maintaining order in the household, this could have contributed to his decision to confine and neglect the child. Even if the perceived outcomes were not socially acceptable, if Timothy believed they were beneficial in the context of his family dynamics, these beliefs could have been a powerful motivator for his actions. Normative beliefs involve the perceived expectations of others and the motivation to comply with these expectations. In Timothy's case, he may have felt that his actions were supported by certain members of his community or his personal network who shared his views on strict discipline. If he perceived a social norm within his circle that endorsed his methods, or if he felt isolated from broader societal norms, this could have influenced his choice to continue the abusive behavior despite his deviance from legal and ethical standards. Control beliefs in TPB address the perceived ease or difficulty of performing the behavior, influenced by past experiences and anticipated obstacles. Timothy might have felt a sense of control over the situation by confining his son, seeing it as a manageable way to handle what he perceived as behavioral problems. This sense of control, whether real or imagined, could have been a significant factor in perpetrating the cycle of abuse. If he believed he had no alternative way to manage the situation, his perceived control over the outcome could have justified his actions in his mind. It is also essential to consider the interplay between these beliefs in the context of TPB. Timothy's actions may have been the result of a complex interaction between his beliefs about the effectiveness of his methods, his perception of the acceptability of these methods among his peers, and his perceived ability to carry out these actions. When combined, these beliefs could create a psychological environment where the abuse could be rationalized and perpetrated. In sum, Timothy's attitudes toward the behavior, the social norms he perceived, and his belief in his control over the situation may have all played a role in shaping his intentions and ultimately leading to the crime. Understanding this interplay of beliefs and intentions may help in comprehending the psychological processes that contribute to such actions. As always, this analysis is only meant to shed light into the psychological underpinning of Timothy's actions, but is not meant to excuse or absolve him of his horrific acts. Why do you think Timothy resorted to locking up his own son to discipline him? How do you think Ferriters should have responded to their son's alleged behavioral problems? We want to give a big thanks to everyone over on Patreon. We want to give a big shout out to Nexus, Big Pepperoni Pizza, Chrissy R, and Dulce P. If you want to watch ad-free and uncensored versions of all Wicked videos, feel free to join our Patreon, link in the description. Thank you for watching and join us next time when we explore the psychological maze of some of the most wicked people.